Good stuff. There we are live. It says going live. It's always this first 30 seconds that is just a tricky one between going live here and there. Cool
Oh,
stuff. So YouTube says that we are live, and
should I
but
switch
I
off the
also
video?
yes, but when you're talking, just share your video so people
Okay,
can
okay.
see you. Cool stuff. All right. I almost forgot to let everybody else in the room. How crazy. So as others are connecting into the room, I want to say a very good evening. Tonight we are coming in and we are closing off the evening strong. And who is here will win, and who is not here may still struggle to get their win. But either which way, we're here, we're in it to win it. So I want to welcome everyone that is joining on YouTube, and I want to welcome everyone that has come through into Zoom. You know, the one thing that I learned over time is that there'll always be a lot of people starting, but when it comes to ending, it's only those I truly find that are in it to win it that will end strong. So, welcome to everybody that I've just let into Zoom. It seems that there's one or two connectivity issues already with some of the people, but that is okay because we're going to have the replay on YouTube. So let me just quickly set the precedent and we are going to get right into it, ladies and gents. So over the last 4 days, can you believe today is day number 4? I'm excited for it. So over the last 4 days, what we have been going through is getting started in property investing. A lot of people have found that, getting started in property investing, it doesn't take too much. I think I could do it. I could wing this, or whatever the case is, right? However, by the communication that I've received so far from many people that have come in and out of the session, whether they've watched the replay or whether they have joined, the one thing that I am blessed to hear each time is that I got so much more than I expected that I can't believe you did this. And I'm so thankful to God that you did this. That's kind of the sum total of a lot of the emails that I've been getting. So I'm blessed to share, but I'm also blessed to receive a lot of your encouragement and your really, really kind words. And for that, I am truly thankful. So, ladies and gents, tonight we're not going to do a lot of whatever, but I want to start off by telling you all a quick story. You know me and my stories, Chan. So tonight I've got two gentlemen that are going to share. I did ask them two things. I just asked them, one, could you please encourage those that are new in property? And two, just position who you are and what you do. And the reason why I've requested this from them is that it is all good and well. You hear from myself and you're like, oh, she's been doing it for 5 years. She sounds so proficient in it, and all the stuff that we will have as a conversation and a dialogue. And then you end up pulling back because of fear. And my whole aim is to bring people who are as fresh as 90 to 120 days in the game of taking action, right? There's a lot of things that we do. We set ourselves up for many, many years, or we read and whatever. But it's when we start taking action that we actually start learning at that point, because we learn when we do. It's all good and well that we learn and we read something sharp, but we learn truly when we do. So, the first gentleman that I would love to introduce to everybody this evening is Vivek. Vivek, please can you unmute yourself because you're going to have a young conversation shortly. Vivek actually did training with me, this training that I'm doing with you guys for the last 4 days. I think it was a little bit more than a year ago or at the beginning of 2019, Vivek. When was it?
Late 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, late 2019.
Yes.
And then it took Vivek some time, and then he came back into my space late 2020 and he said, Jen, I'm ready for coaching. I was like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. So for me, the privilege and the honor that I've had is to train Vivek as well as to start coaching with him. And while many people were popping bottles on the 15th of December, Vivek and I had our first coaching session on the 15th of December. So this guy was serious about, hey, I want to start and I don't care the fact that it is December. So Vivek, I would love that you introduce yourself And whatever you feel that you'd like to share with everyone tonight, however long or however short, that is entirely up to you. I would like you to give it a go and share with everybody.
Okay. Thank you so much, Genevieve, for this introduction.
Pleasure, Vivek.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Vivek, and like Genevieve just mentioned, so I started uh, on property late 2019. So I had a one-day boot camp with Genevieve, and then I was not doubting myself, but I was delaying to take action, like Genevieve just said. So it took me some time to think about it, whether it's a good avenue for a passive income or for even for a business opportunity. And then in late 2020, I said, no, I want to learn more about property, and I want to make it like a passive income. So that's when I started the coaching session with Genevieve mid-December. And then from there, beginning of this year, so I've gone out to see a few properties in my area. So I'm staying in Randburg, so I go around in Randburg to see a few properties. So I'm sure you know those TV shows where on DSTV where people buy ugly houses and then they sell them for a big profit. So those are the types of projects that I do. So my goal is to find a distressed property, do the necessary renovation, and then sell the house for a profit, while also at the same time helping the area, the neighborhood around. So far, I have not find a property which I can say is a good deal for myself and for an investor. But I'm still looking, and I'm sure I will find one in the near future. So I look for property opportunities. I do my due diligence to find if this property will be profitable. And then what I do, I partner with a property investor who will bring in the necessary finance for the deal. So this is the cycle. This is the whole, you can say, cycle of a project that I do. So you look for the property, you do your numbers, and if it is profitable for an investor, then you can propose that opportunity to an investor, and then he will bring in the finance for you for the deal. And then you can charge the investor for your time and effort that you have done to look for the deal, your time spent that you have drive to the property to look, bring the builder in, get a quote for all your effort that you have done. So you will charge the property investor the necessary fee for yourself. So what I'm looking for is for individuals that I can partner with on my property opportunities that I have. So if there's anyone who is willing to get a better return on their money than the stock market, so you can speak to me. I will show you my property opportunities that I have, and you can invest into real estate in a more passive capacity. So my area is mostly in Randburg, and around Randburg mostly, and also four ways as well. I've seen a few good properties there as well. So yeah, this is the area that I usually work in. So if you're willing to get uh, to jump into real estate. So we can have a chat and then we can take it forward. So yeah, thank you, Genevieve, for this platform for me to talk to the guys also, and as well. Just remember, you must take action on the knowledge that you have. Yeah.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much, Vivek. Ladies and gents, talking is not for everybody. And Vivek was quite nervous. And I'm so glad that you made it through and you didn't faint. So you're still good, buddy. You're still good.
Thank you.
Fantastic stuff. There's different things that we need to work on. And when I got into property, I've got no problem in screaming and shouting and talking. I needed to learn to keep quiet. So, everyone has got their own superpowers. What I will do is at the end of this particular session, I'll go down into the comments, into the description below, and I will leave Vivek's LinkedIn link. So if you want to connect with him on LinkedIn and have a conversation, then you'll be able to communicate with him directly. Vivek, are you cool with that? I didn't even ask, are you cool with that?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine, Genevieve. Yes.
Awesome
yes.
stuff.
I appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah, I think I take some things for granted because we've been journeying this journey together. And I know that if there's one thing that you do quite well is on LinkedIn is position yourself and really just aim to surround yourself with people that are like-minded. So I want to say thank you so much. Ladies and gents, if there's any questions for the guys, in the meantime, drop it in the comments or down in the comments below or in the chat. And then once Nazeem has shared, if there's any questions, then I'll be able to position them and, you'll be able to ask the questions respectively. So I thank you again, Vivek. I really appreciate your brave heart and the fact that you put yourself out there and that you've encouraged everybody. When you start, just take action. You may have taken some time, but at the end of the day, you got over the point of doubting yourself and you jumped into it. So the second gentleman, the second gentleman that I want to introduce this evening is Nazeem. Nazeem and I met in my way, in my understanding, this is a peculiar way. I think I did give you guys a bit of an insight last night. On New Year's Eve, 10 to 12, because I'm going to double check the time for you guys for this tonight. I got this beep, and all my beeps on my phone classify what it's about because I've got beeps for investors. So that those beeps that I get from investors, I call it the money beeps because I want to know, am I servicing my investors the right way, right? So everything has got a beep that's got some significance behind it. And so I got this beep from my WooCommerce store, and I'm thinking, WooCommerce beep? Like at this time when everyone's celebrating or almost celebrating New Year's, it was the beep of Nazeem's payment. Nazeem decided at 10 to 12 into 2021 that he's going to do something different. And so he booked a coaching session with me. We met a couple of days later. And just before coming on the session, I screamed the rooftop off because he gave me awesome news. But I'm not going to be that girl and talk about Nazeem's news. But I just thought, let me introduce you as to how I met Nazeem and when I met Nazeem. So Nazeem, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for that nice introduction, Jenna.
Only a pleasure.
I know I'm a bit strange at 10 to 12 when everybody's drinking. I'm thinking about property.
It's a good kind of strange, brother.
So yeah, my name is Nazeem. I'm an engineer. I'm a property entrepreneur, a wholesaler, a sourcing agent. Took me a while to add those last two to my name. I'm very proud of them. So yeah, how did my journey start? So 5 years back, I was fortunate to pick up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I got hooked on that book. I probably read it probably 50 times already. I read the book over and over 50 times already. So yeah, that's almost like a study manual for me. Then after that, I read about, say, in total about another 25 books on property investing. How do you do property investing, different strategies, stuff like that. I did courses, about 8 courses. I did thousands of YouTube videos, but I never had the action, never took the action. So for 5 years, I've been stuck in the analysis paralysis, just getting information, just feeding information, but I never had the courage to go out there and go do the thing. 2018, I got distracted a bit. Took almost half a million rand, invested in a retail business. I lost all that money, and that added more to my analysis paralysis. So that also kicked me a bit back, kicked me to the gut. So, oh, okay, you used to think you all that in a bag of chips. You're not all that. So, so that also hurt my ego a bit. And then for 2 years, I did nothing. Just licked my wounds. Uh, 20, 2021 came. Like Zena said, New Year's Eve, and I said, okay, I can't go into the new year just like this again. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna start picking up property. And then I said, what I'm gonna do different this time, I'm gonna get. So what they say is, if you want to get somewhere, or you want to get somewhere, you need to copy someone that's done it already. So I started doing my internet research and all that, and I found Jenna. I watched Jenna's YouTube videos. I said, okay, now this lady looks like she knows what she's doing. She's a little bit upbeat. I think I can. I think our personalities will match. I think she'll be a good fit for me as a mentor. 10 to 12, made the payment. Got the call. We was on our first call, so I spoke to Jenna. Jenna, now I'm a very pedantic person. I take everything to the T. When I do research, I will even find out what type of ground or what type of sand is in the house. I'm one of those guys. So yeah, so I started speaking with Jenna. Uh, Jenna asked me in and out, what knowledge I have, what courses I've done. To be honest, I probably spent almost 100K in courses, which is money I can say I threw down the drain. I should have gone to Jenna one time. Should have gone to Jenna, saved all that money. uh, so what we did is she took a part of my background, and she asked me what I do, what I want to go, what's my goals, where I want to be, what I want to do. And then so we came down to the conclusion, I've got a mindset block. So I've got the knowledge, I've got the ability, but my mindset is still stuck that you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail. Or I was actually 10 steps ahead, because I think if I go to the house, I need to sign OTP. And if I sign an OTP and I didn't make a correct decision, I'm gonna lose all my money. So I was already 10 steps ahead, and then Jenna told me, come back. Your first homework, just go and view. No OTPs, no offers, just look at the houses. And then that started build my confidence. And then what I started doing, I started viewing houses. Talking about the short space from time in January to now. Started viewing houses, viewing. Uh, in my time also with working with Zena, I also got 2 investors on my books. So these investors, they will tell me, look, they're looking. One is looking at student accommodation, and there's one that's is working in my area where I'm fishing for properties. So I'm in the Pretoria area, so I'm always fishing around the Pretoria area. So this investor I have, he also does flipping, and only in the Pretoria area. So yeah, there's a funny story how I met this guy. I actually went on Gumtree and I saw a house. Like Zena always says, you look for a house that got 1 pixel, or a house that's got a, you don't even know if it's a house in the pixel or what they're taking the pixel off. So I saw this house. It came up like 5 minutes ago. I found the guy. He says he's actually at the property. I can go to the. It was quite close to my work. I drove down. I met the guy. I had a chat. I gave him. They wanted 850. I told him, look here, I can only give you 600,000 because there's a lot of work on this property. Actually, I told him 550, which is a cheeky or is a cheeky offer. I was staring my luck. On the spot, he phoned the owners. The owner says they'll take 600,000. I said, good shot. We'll meet up tomorrow. We'll meet tomorrow, and we will do the paperwork. He said, okay, good. As I was driving back to work, I saw a house. They're busy builders, busy building, and do all that. I went in there. I asked them, guys, I need a quote for this house down there. They took me through the house. They showed me what they're doing, how the house is looking. And as I'm talking to them, the owner or the investor came in, and I had a chat with him. And I said, look, yeah, I've got a house down the road, uh, basically the same house as this. Uh, I can get it for you for 650. He says 650. 650. Are you sure? I said yes. He says that's a good price. So we walked down. We didn't have to drive down. We walked down to the other house. We just go. The house is empty, so there's nobody in the house. Walked around the house. So this is look, yeah, that's a deal. So within a space of maybe less than an hour, I bought the house. Actually, not bought it. I found a house. I sold it to an investor in a space of an hour's time. I made it a 30,000 rand, and that's all in a day's work. And that was my first deal, which I always I called the accidental deal. But Jenna says it's not accidental. It was the build up to all the courses, to all the viewing, all the estate agents I was touching base with all the hundreds of phone calls to estate agents. All of this led up to this moment where everything met at the same time.
Some
So
synchronicity.
yeah, yeah. So they say what's say luck is when preparation meets what's the word again, Sena? Is it luck is when
I think
preparation
this is
meets
probably
opportunity.
hard work, opportunity. Yes.
Opportunity, yeah. When preparation meets opportunity, that's where you get luck. So yeah, so also, so what I'm looking at when I look at a deal, the first thing I look at is net yield at 15%. Positive cash flow. We can't buy to lose money. We must always make money. We're investors. We're not gamblers. Equity, 20%. This deal I had actually more equity because the house is actually, if you look at it at its current state, is about 800,000. I got it for 600,000, so I got about more than 20% equity. Also, what I do is I do due diligence. This is something I pride myself in. I'm the type of person that can tell you who was the 5 previous owners of the house, because that's the type of I've got attention to detail. That's my thing. That's my thing. I once went to a property where uh, I went to go look at the property, and I spoke to the agent, and the agent says, yeah, this and that and that. I tell them, you know that the house is registered in a business name, and the business is being deregistered by Cypro. He says, how do you know that? Says, because before I come to a property, I make sure I know everything. And I told him, so it'll take me 6 months just to get the property into my name. And by that time, I already lost money. And that by then, just by having that conversation, the property is priced up by 100,000. And the guy, I told the lady, look here, that's going to cost me 100,000 just to do those things, just to sort out that stuff. So that already saved me 100,000 and took me like a 5-minute Google search. I pulled a Lightstone. I saw the company. I Googled the company, and then I went into the Cypro website. They say the company is in the registration. And then I Googled how do you deregister or how do you get the company back from the registration. And it says a 6 months process. You need to do this, this, and that. Took me like 5 to 10 minutes to get that information. It saved me 100,000, and if I would have taken that deal. Then also what I also do, I also make sure I've got 2 exits. So I don't believe in one exit. So either it's going to be a rental, either it's going to be flip, it's going to be multi-let, it's going to be student, uh, maybe business, or maybe you need to sign get the residential, make it residential to business. I always make sure that I have more than one exit in a property, because in the current situation you live in, you never know what happens tomorrow. So today you might have rentals, tomorrow you don't have rentals. So that's also what I do. And then also I'm busy, or actually I've got my FFC. So I'm an intern real estate agent, so I can even sell the property for you. If you
And
want to flip it.
congratulations on that one. It's a
Yeah.
great step that you took. Last night, we blew up that conversation with FFCs. So,
Mm.
yes, we want to be on the right side of the law.
Yeah, but it's quite easy to get the FFC. It took me like 2 weeks to get the FFC from a company. So yeah, if you want me to sell the property, I'll sell the property also for you. Also, I got a website. It's called SA Home Cash Buyers. So what we do, we connect the distressed properties and sellers with investors. So if you can either get me on SA Home Cash Buyers website, or you can get me on LinkedIn. I've got a very big profile. Also, some advice for you guys that's new in the game. LinkedIn is your friend. LinkedIn, I've met also a few investors. Just by putting in there, I'm a wholesaler. I'm a sourcing agent. I've got three to four. Not even I didn't even market anything or didn't put anything on there. Just by heading on my profile, I got 4 investors already reaching out to me, asking me what do I have. So that's also a good tool. I also started my LinkedIn from scratch. I never had LinkedIn. Probably from January till now, I have about 250 people. I think somewhere around there. 90% of them is property investors, real estate agents, people in the property business, and I made a lot of connections with a lot of people. I also follow Jenna, and I follow her husband, Mr. TJ. They also give good nuggets every day. I'm learning something new from their post also. So yeah, if you guys want to reach me, sahomecashbuyers.com, and also I'm in LinkedIn. And maybe if you want more information, you can get my other information from Jenna. If you're looking to invest in the Pretoria area, I'm there for guidance. I'm here for help. If you want me to go look through for deals or help to assist you getting deals or running the numbers. Okay, I'm quite lazy in running the numbers. I know I'm an engineer. I'm supposed to be good at that, but I'm lazy to run the numbers. I use a app to do all that for me. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you, Jenna.
Pleasure, Nazeem. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gents, again, my main prerogative to bring Nazeem and Vivek is never just to say, oh, this is what we can do in coaching or whatever the case is. It is about sharing with you that, you know what, when you want to start off in property, you're going to go through a lot of different feelings. I don't know what feelings you are going through. I don't know what you've gone through to be here today, right? But the aim of sharing from a Vivek and a Nazeem point of view yesterday with Colleen and with Solna is to tell you 2 very important things. Surround yourself with people that are headed in the same direction as you. Because when you start doing that, things change. And the second thing is, don't take education for granted. If there's one thing that I've learned, there's a thin line between making it big and not. We paid 5 million school fees, and the school fees was losing a lot of money. Nazeem shared as well with you that for 2 years he licked his wounds. So I just want to give you a quick share because you know I'm about that being that practical life. This is what Nazeem was referring to. So I've gone into his profile. Both Vivek and Nazeem's links, I'll put it down in the description below for of this particular YouTube video. And I'll also put the links and the email that I will send tonight. Actually, just straight down in the YouTube video. So I'll hear from them how comfortable they are with other stuff, right? So Nazeem shared, he only started his profile 90 days ago. I'm counting 90 because we literally the first quarter of the year done as of today. So 90 days ago, he started this particular profile. And as you can see, he's got quite a few connections. He does what he does. Sometimes you may post, you may find that maybe not many people are reading my posts, but there's a lot of people that come into our inbox. You know, we know that inbox move, right? So I highlight Nazeem's profile, but then I also want to share this as well. The one thing I believe in when you're using social media, we don't have that platform that I spoke about yesterday where you saw me pitching a deal, right? But we've got social media. How are we using social media? So if I come into Nazeem's profile, I immediately see SA Home Cash Buyers. So if I'm an investor, I get attracted to this. If I may be wanting to sell my property, I could get attracted to this. The moment I actually click on the cover, I see that he's on Facebook. I see that I can phone him. I see that I can WhatsApp him. I see that I can go to his website and I see that I can email him. So what he's effectively done is put his business out there, right? By putting that information. I don't have to scroll much further. I can then click on message. And when I message, I'll be able to start talking to Nazeem. So when we're talking about upgrading your profile, yesterday, remember, I said I will show you guys another method on social media. And I'm also so grateful that Nazeem mentioned it as well, so that you can see it's not just me doing that, right? So, for example, if I go home and let me go into my profile. When I go into my profile, all I say is helping property entrepreneurs find the best cash flowing property opportunities. And I already say book a call. Because when you start scrolling down my profile, you know how to book a call. Here's a book that I've written. Here's something on YouTube that may be of interest to you. There's quite a few, there's these three things that give you an indication what Genevieve is about. And if you say, okay, what is this FHC Consulting? FHC Consulting is the actual name of my business. And then I'm able to give all of what I do from a business point of view. And you'll be able to view it there. So at the end of the day, using social media, you can use it, as a tool, or you could just use it, well, as a tool. And it depends whether you are there using it as a spade to dig and go deeper down into connecting with people truly. Because I even say helping property entrepreneurs who are struggling to find, analyze, and close property investment opportunities. I'm very clear with what I do. I'm not too minded in what I do. If you go and you'll find that on my social media, all my social media has Genevieve Stafford Jack. Genevieve Stafford Jack is my name. Stafford is my maiden surname. Jack is my married surname. Because I created a huge audience of people that I connected with over my time at work, there's still a lot of people that will know Genevieve Stafford. They'll be looking for Genevieve Stafford. And there's others that will know Genevieve Jack, and they'll be looking for Genevieve Jack. And either which way, they will find me. If you go to Instagram, you will find Genevieve Stafford Jack. If you go to Facebook, you would find Genevieve Stafford Jack. So my question to you today would also be, how are you using your social media so that you can attract people to you without screaming, hey, I've got a deal? Because sometimes if you're on social media and you start saying, hey, I've got a deal, if people don't understand what a deal is, they would just swiftly go past you, right? So I'm saying, if you get to my profile, this is the first thing that you see. Why would I do this? I would do this because at one given point, I said, okay, cool. Now that I am sharing more about property investing training, I first want to show people what I've done before they even get to me, because I don't want to blow my own horn. So if you click on my, because I say click on here, then I tell you to click here to get free access to a free investing training. So you see this training that we're doing. Last year, I just went to go and get about 3 hours of all the content, and I cut it and did what all I needed to do, and I put it on my website. If you're somebody that is curious, you will be able to click onto that particular link, and then you eventually get into my free course to start understanding, oh, okay, this is who she is before you actually meet me. So if you already feel like, I don't really connect with the way she is, maybe she's too hyper, or maybe she's whatever, we've all got our own ideas, our preconceived ideas about people, right? So you may just say, okay, no, I don't want to. So already my social media has taken you literally almost like through a funnel, because you'll get to my website, and it's not the only thing that's on my website that is the free training. You'll be able to find whatever you need to find out about me on my website, from my teaching through to my selling of my deals. But my selling of my deals have been the first thing people have seen, and that only led into training. I remember it was 2018. The more I ran away from people that said, teach me, the more I seemed to have attracted a lot of people saying, I want to do what you do. And for most, I was like, no, guys, I don't want to be in this industry. I've seen with clients prior to this how it's just too much money, and I wouldn't even know where to start. I made excuse after excuse after excuse. And the one day there was one person that changed my mind, and they didn't even know they changed my mind. And he said this very thing to me. He said, Jen, the fact that I've met you and the fact that you are not driving a Porsche makes you approachable to me, because there's a lot of people that are in their suits and whatnot, and I can't connect with them. And I felt so bad. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I said, okay, maybe I should just start sharing on YouTube. Maybe I should. And then I started trying to find excuses. But the long and short of the story is this: I want to challenge you to, you're going to see Nazeem's link down in the description when we're done in the video. I'll put it there. Go and see what you can mimic from Nazeem's profile. See what you can mimic from Vivek's profile. Because if that's how they're attracting people, that's how I also attracted people coming into this particular training, asking about, so who are you? What is it that you do? And in fact, I was screaming earlier when Nazeem told me about the deal that he closed. And he said, Jen, it was my accidental deal. And I totally see why he says it was accidental. However, the one thing I just said, just keep this in the back of your mind. Everything that you've been doing for the last 5 years, everything has been fine tuning you and getting you ready for this particular moment. Had you not been observant. So I want to highlight a couple of good lessons from both guys, and then we're going to get into lessons through my deals, and then we're going to jump into running numbers. The one thing Vivek said, I took some time, I did worry, and I had a bit of fear, and I decided to believe in myself, right? So if you're in that space, whoever it is that you're following, guys, I don't, I don't need it to be me. I don't need it to be me. I need it to be who you connect with, right? Whoever you are following, see if somewhere along the line you can connect with that person, okay? You have a conversation, go through this content all over again, download it, have our voices stuck in your head, but whatever you do, start working through the things that you're learning. The second thing Nazeem said that was very interesting to me, because he planted an idea. I've already learned so much from Nazeem this evening. He drove down the road during his time. He found this particular property because he had seen it on Gumtree, okay? But you know what he did? He did something very brave. So all those that were asking me, Jen, about the builder, how would I get a builder? Nazeem drove down the road that it was a walking distance. He spoke to guys that were renovating a property. He first had chit chat with them. He built a bit of connection with them. And then he said, come with me to give me a quote on that property. Like, you have to have confidence in yourself to actually say, maybe I should do this. But on the other hand, you must actually say to yourself, I dare you myself to go and do something you've never done before. So either which way you are going to win. How you look at it is entirely up to you. So those that were asking about builders, Nazeem has given a classic example that in my 5 years of being in property, I never thought about. Now, like, dude, I'm gonna be driving. I'm like, yo, if I see you guys are my next people because it's just down the road. What does that do right now? We're in company and we're building our mindset. We're building our brave heartedness, if I could call it that, right? And we're in the space where we're in it to win it. So I trust that you guys have gotten some nuggets from the gentleman. Gentlemen, you are most welcome to stay on, but there's no pressure at all if you need to go and to be with your family. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart just for coming to share your heart with people that are interested in getting started in property, regardless of the property investing strategy. So cool bananas, I actually remembered something. I want to show you guys something. So on this wall here, I deconstructed my vision board, okay? And some of the things I started writing out a little bit bigger. And one of the things I put on my vision board last week is this orange paper. And every time we sit down, I look at this orange paper, and only because I was talking about my vision board this afternoon, I actually thought, let me share this with you. My daughter decided she's putting her picture with her 10/10 stickers, because they get green stickers for being good, and her own little art. But I've got quite a few pictures on the wall written out, and here and there I've got some pictures to remind me of what I want. And this is what I wanted for this. What I wanted for this call. Okay, I trust that you guys read this. I said, and I put it out there, and one of the days I was praying, I said, Lord, I don't know who I'll be able to touch in this training, but I do know for me to be brave and for me to be out there, I need to put it out there, but I need to see it every day. And it wasn't last week. It was actually about 12 days ago, because Google Ads gave me a credit, and I even put an advert on Google AdWords credits. And I said, this is what I want. And my desire, I believe, has been met, because we started off with a lot of people on Sunday. And every day the numbers got progressively smaller. However, we started off on Sunday, but people that have interacted have been steady and have been sure. I don't know. I was actually trying to guess if I don't know Edgar, but something tells me I think I know Edgar. I don't know why though. But there's Edgar's name that comes out. There's Leslogonola's name that comes out. There's Luyolo, there's Samuel, there's Kerry, there's Ntombile, there's Sinenhlanhla. Like all these different names that keep coming up were the names I've seen consistently over the last 4 days. And I want to say to you guys, in my desire, my burning desire, I attracted you here because you wanted to succeed. So, nonetheless, here we go. Let us get into, because I don't see any questions. I'm going to jump right into it, so that at least on the top of the hour we can start off with numbers, because numbers tends to be about an hour 10 minutes. So I want to see maybe slightly before the top of the hour that I could start in the numbers. So tonight I want to share with you from Lessons Through My Deals. So we've already learned lessons from the gentleman this evening. I've learned significant lessons as well. I'm like so going to take that drive-by builder quote. You're my guy. You shy a ding dong right now. And now I actually want to throw this out there. Nazeem said, okay, Jen, now that I know that I don't have to sign the offer to purchase, I'm going to go and view a property. I said to him, can you go and view 3 properties? Well, I think it was 3. I said, go and view 3 properties. And when you're done reviewing going to view those properties, what I am going to do, I'm going to give you time of my time for feedback. So you are not going to pay me to give me feedback. You're going to pitch up and you're going to tell me what you did. And so it became a give and take relationship within mentor and mentee. And each time I gave him a challenge, I then said to him, at the back of this challenge, I'm going to challenge you to contact me when you are done. And every time Nazeem was supposed to do something, he tenfolded that something. So I want to say to you guys, whoever you connect with, whoever's going to be somebody that's going to hold your hand, make sure it is all about action and taking action that is sensible and not just going to sign an offer to purchase, because my threat was you do not sign an offer to purchase ever until me and you have spoken, right? And that was in the beginning, until he got confident and I knew that he's got his numbers and his app in place and all of those things. I didn't worry about that because I got a good sense of his education. But I did threaten him, do not sign an offer to purchase. Nonetheless, my first deal that I want to share with you guys from a lessons learned point of view, the picture that's right on the top, that was my first one picture deal. One picture deal, like Nazeem says, you don't even know if there's a house in there. This was just, this top picture was my first picture deal. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from an insolvent property, here comes a confession. When I got into property investing, sourcing was not my first creative finance strategy that I wanted to do. In fact, in order of what I wanted to do, I was looking for a back-to-back deal. And then I thought if that failed, maybe I will look for a joint venture deal. And if that fails, well, if I have to, then I'll source it. Well, as life would have it, I learned that an insolvent property, meaning there's more debt in the property, all right? An insolvent property, you cannot do a back-to-back deal. The offer to purchase of an insolvent property looks very, very different to your usual offer to purchase template. The offer to purchase template that you will know, I will now call it OTP moving forward. I've tried my best to stay away from acronyms. Now, the OTP that we all know, you can fill in and you can scratch out, and Silna spoke quite a bit about it last night and things like that. An insolvent property one is entirely different. When you see either an insolvent later state or an insolvent property, guys, it is so different. It almost feels like they're charging you to breathe. And that's where this first property, the one lesson I learned, it struck the back-to-back deal, no money down option. It struck it away. At that time, I wasn't really into installment sale agreements. I didn't feel that I had the superpowers to actually negotiate that particular deal. But nonetheless, like for me, the installment sale agreement wasn't even on my list of no money down deals, because there's quite, there's a healthy list to go with it, right? So now it struck my back-to-back deal right off. Now I say to myself, well, what do we do here? My husband and I had gone in, and this is the deal where he speaks about the 1,000 Rand deposit. That is the second lesson. When they don't stipulate how much is your deposit, drive the boat and make a deposit your own figure. Because we said there's going to be a 1,000 Rand deposit, but give us 30 days to raise the 1,000 Rand deposit. Cheeky, but it worked. Because where we were at that time, we were more emotional than logical. Andrew helped us through that process. Andrew was the one that said, okay, now that you guys got the deal and you have signed on the dotted line, let's get to finding that property investor. I have never, okay, maybe never is too much of an absolute word, but at that time of my life, I don't think I'd ever stressed the way I did, thinking, this 160, if whatever happens to it. Remember that fear factor I was telling you guys about, that I felt like, if this doesn't come through, at least it's 200,000 and less. That was what got me stressed, because Andrew encouraged us to sign an offer to purchase. But not long after that, we eventually met one of Andrew's other students. So TJ has always been the face of our home when it comes to joint ventures, because we're doing it as a couple. Now, to anyone that is married or doing things as a joint venture couple, whether you are life partners or business partners, maybe that's a better one. Whether you're life partners or whether you're business partners, at some given point, you are going to find one of the two of you are going to be the drivers. And I want to encourage you from a perspective of TJ and I are drivers. You say this is what needs to be done. We both action takers, and it's done. So sometimes in our house, we are at a point of nauseum with each other, because, we almost like, here, no, done, here, done, but how come done? So a lot of things get done. I'm not saying that we don't procrastinate, but when it comes to business, we take action because we see what action gives us results. So nonetheless, as we had motored on in life, we had decided TJ will be the face of our household when it comes to these joint venture deals. I was okay with that because I had my own little demons I was fighting. So if you're a life partner or business partner, start looking at each other's strengths. When you start looking at each other's strengths, it will really build you guys up because I am more detailed than TJ is, right? I am the one that is more pedantic in terms of timelines than TJ is. But sometimes he'll talk about some things and I'm like, no, baby, it didn't happen that direction. It happened like this, like this. But of course, I gently remind him not to make him look like he's crazy in front of everybody, right? So I want to say, if you are in a partnership, start working off of each other's strengths. And so this is part of the lessons from my first deal, right? Because it was a joint venture, we were able to go in and take some pictures. These are small little pictures that I was able to put onto this particular deal. Now, here is the cherry on top for this deal. When we went on to Property 24, Property 24 said the rental income in Kempton Park for your traditional 2-bed, 1-bath was 2,500 Rand. Okay. How is it that we were able to bring in a rental income of 5,000 Rand? Boom. We were walking the streets. As Nazeem found his builders, he was able to walk with the builders, was able to walk with the property investor to the new house. We were walking the streets. We parked the car. So some of you that may say, but you know, Jen, I don't have a car. I don't know how to do driving around the neighborhood. I want to encourage you, jump in a taxi. Take a taxi to the area of your choice. Don't look suspicious, because if you can see the way I was dressed, there is nothing suspicious about me. Okay. In fact, you could probably just walk right past me on the street. To me, that's how much of a plain Jane I looked like. You know, I've got to look for certain occasions. When I want to go out, shame. That's when my husband says, this is Mrs. Jack. He's full of nonsense like that sometimes, but that's when he can easily identify this is Mrs. Jack. But when I'm every day, this is me. I've had my natural hair don't care type week in my frizzy curly hair. And so when I go and I view properties, I don't think twice of should I wear heels of what. Ladies and gents, when you're viewing property, you want to be comfortable. This learning curve, we walk down on this informal board. There's a whole lot of different notices. There was a balcony that was 1,800. And so we called. And I spoke because a lot of the times a female's voice calling is a lot easier to take from the other side. It doesn't mean that a guy's voice is not, but I'm saying if ever you are working in a duo and the duo, whether life partners or business partners, in this duo, if there's a lady, let the lady talk. If there's a gent, the gent with the more softer voice, let them speak. I don't know what it is. We learned that in the classroom. We applied it. And now and then I wanted to test the notion. When I tested the notion, we saw the difference. Okay. Because one day TJ called and he spoke, and then they said, okay, we'll get back to you for when you can come and view the property. It was minutes later, I called and they gave me a time for an hour from the time I called. And it was a funny thing because we looked at each other and said, but that was minutes apart. So those are my nuggets I could share with you from my first deal. While I was busy with my first deal, it also took me into the township. Now, when I say the township, I may want to say the informal settlements / formal settlements, because there's a lot of formal houses that are built in areas like Soweto, depending on where you go to, in Alexander, in Tembisa. I learned during my town planning info session that any place is called a township. So Sandton is a township, Bryanton is a township. It's just we've adapted words over time for us to relate to what we're talking about. So in the township, there are 3 things that stood out for me. The title deeds, understand who owns the property. Sometimes Gogo has been staying there, and then she passes away. The child that was looking after Gogo and keeping the family together may have been the financier of that particular property, and that person was the one that continued looking after the property, right? This person passes away. Now that could be my mother. And then I'll say, this is my mother's house. Yeah, this is my mother's house. And now we're all fighting because we say, this is my mother's house. Back at the ranch, it was Gogo's house. The sibling disputes that came out, I do not understand Sotho. I speak English, I speak Afrikaans, Fanagalo, Zulu. I can hear real clear Zulu to a degree. Fanagalo is what you'll get back from me, just like my Shona will be Fanagalo. But at the end of the day, Sotho, I was totally out of my depth. I hadn't a clue on what was going on around me. And the one situation, the brother said, this was my mother's house. So whoever's buying this house, they take me because this is my mother's house. And so some of the sibling disputes that are there is real. I can't even make that ish up. In terms of some of the townships, the RDP houses, you can find some can be sold, some not. Those that can be sold, just make sure again the title deeds are in the right person's name. Some of the sizes of the RDP houses can be financed and some not. So sometimes you'll find an RDP house where they say cash only. It's twofold. One, they may not hold the title deeds, or two, it's too small to be financed. Okay, so look out for those things. The third one, which is a really big one in townships, more particularly, but also in the suburbs, because don't get this wrong, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So in some of the townships and as well as the burbs, when you see that there's an extension to the property, how would you see that? You look at the neighbors. What does the neighbor's house look like versus this house? Sometimes you'll be able to see they've got back rooms, and then you want to know, please, could I have the approved, and I'll get stuck on the word again, approved municipal building plans. Why approved? Because you want to know that they did go via the municipality to say, I am building. Because at the end of the day, there could be disputes. You could be building the back rooms without approval. You'll be building on the boundary line. What does that look like? You can get into a lot of trouble building on the boundary line. Sometimes you're building in a space where it should not be built, and then here comes the floods, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Somebody passes away because of negligence of the way the place was built, or it ended up collapsing and things like that. So you want to ask for building plans, these extension plans on the property. So while being out there, wholesalers, I really need you to be a lot more pedantic. Not that the property investors that can go to the bank or have access to money shouldn't, but I want you guys more especially to be, I suppose, because we are kin. Nonetheless, this deal is a deal that started with a motivated seller. The guy was going to Nigeria. He eventually turned distressed because the tenants hijacked the place. The interesting part about the tenant is that it's actually a 2-bed, 1-bath, but when I got there, the patio was closed up and the tenant was renting out the patio. The tenant was the one that stayed in the small room. The big room, the tenant put a curtain, and in the lounge, the tenant put a curtain. So in the big room, there were 2 people. The lounge, there were 2 people. And the patio, there's 1 person. Okay? And so in this, the tenant that was staying in their own lockup room, the smaller room, wasn't paying to stay there. Instead, they were the ones collecting 1,800 times 5. They were cash flowing. And the most bizarre thing happened in the last month while the owner was trying to sell the place. The tenant just stopped paying rent. So there's going to be sometimes you get into sticky situations like that. Remember the viewing tips homework that I gave you? Those viewing tips, this is where you also want to play your part really well. Some places, they don't want you to take pictures. This is when these are the pictures, and imagine I sold a deal that looked terrible pictures like this. This particular pictures I was able to get because I stole that moment to take the pictures, because the main tenant, who's the actual tenant, said, I don't want you to be taking pictures. If you take pictures, I'll break your phone. So I was also threatened. So some of these yeah, I laugh only now. That time it wasn't funny. Some of these things just come back and you just think to yourself, yo, this is a lot to deal with. So in that, I want to share with you that there are going to be situations that may be sticky, but there are situations eventually it's worth it, because I was able to wholesale this deal. I see Nozipo says RDP houses have drama. I've experienced this firsthand. So interesting stuff, Nozipo. So at least we know that Genevieve is not thumb sucking here. It was interesting, especially the part where the guy says, "Whoever buys this house is buying this house with me in it. This is my mother's house." I was like, "Okay, we see you." Now, more lessons in terms of student accommodation. In students accommodation, what I found is that when I'm looking for property for investors that are interested in student accommodation, I always want to understand how far is this property from the tertiary institution. The closer, the better. I don't look at property more than 2 kilometers away from them. That is my own personal thing over time. I then in the area start looking for any accredited student accommodations, so that I can go and do a bit of a cameo appearance to go and say, oh, hello, hi, I'm just coming to see the property. I may have my nephew coming to stay, or some days it's my son. Or it's catfishing, guys. The bottom line is I'm wanting to do some measure of investigation as to see what my competitors look like. So what happens is I share with the investor, this and this and this place is accredited, okay? I go online and I say, when you type in student accommodation requirements, you'll be able to get the form. And then the last component to that is that when you stick to the form, it's not always 100% that you have to stick to the form. They'll come and inspect the place and give you a thumbs up or not. There is a difference in terms of students, because there are bursary students and there are private students. From Rieta van Rooyen, who is the CFO at M5 Property Addicts, I learned a lot of my student accommodation tips and tricks from her as well, because there's, whenever I find a student accommodation property that I can, sell to an investor, I always want to send her my due diligence and ask her, is it packaged right? Is there something else that I could add? The one thing that she had taught me over time is that there's 2 types of students: bursary students, private students. The bursary students, you want to treat them slightly different to the private students. The bursary students are on a month to month, because sometimes the first years catch on nonsense. They get a place by you, all of a sudden there is some space in res, and there's the space in res, then they leave without telling you anything, and they're still getting the money. So what ends up happening is that according to NSFAS, the student is going to get paid, but then if they're not there and they're absconding, you can go back and say, this student is no longer here. So I just want that to be shown, because from a responsibility point of view, as a student accommodation landlord, if I could put it that way, you want to have responsibility and report back that information. Okay, because sometimes the students eventually get space somewhere else, or they've gone to their friends, and then they start eating the money from NSFAS. And here you are, NSFAS is, you're supposed to get paid, but NSFAS says, but you got a student there, why are you not getting paid? Long story short, the students is AWOL. So it's always good to understand what's happening in that particular space. One of the things Rieta says, that if you are not managing the property yourself, use an agent or somebody who's like a house mother that understands what goes into managing students. And when it comes to the bursary students, the rental option is on a month to month, right? Because everything is done with NSFAS and there's a different process. Your private students, you don't screen the student. You have to screen the parents, because the parents are liable for the students' livelihood. Okay, the parents are the one that's going to pay, and if the parents don't pay, they can't quite say to you as the landlord, well, just keep my child there, I can't quite pay. You have to come up with some sort of agreement. But the bottom line is, always have a mix of students, and this is one of the things I also put into my wholesaling agreement. If I do talk about student accommodation, on having a good mix of students, so that the cash students balance out the NSFAS students, because NSFAS guarantees that they will pay. They just don't guarantee that they'll pay on time. Nonetheless, you'll find that there's a shortage of student accommodation. They'll always show us the shortage of student accommodation and not what the students are capable of. So also, if you are an investor that's interested in student accommodation, make sure that you know what the students are capable of, so that you can put rules in place, okay? And if you are interested as a wholesaler to find student accommodation for property investors, just always make sure that at the end of the day, you also encourage your property investors. So as I close of this part, before I switch into Excel and see if there's any questions, I want to reiterate the whole thing that we've been talking about over the last 3.5 days. Find a property investing opportunity. Do due diligence. Now it's easy to say these words. Can you see? It sounds like, oh, but I already knew that from the beginning. And then when you start seeing what all goes into it, then you realize how deep this subject goes. Do your due diligence. I can say that now to you. Why? Because you've been, over the last 3.5 days, you've been attentive to what is due diligence, what is my market research, okay? The running the numbers we're going to do shortly. What is your primary strategy? What is your exit strategy? You heard what Nazeem says. He likes to have 2 exit strategies, and those are always good to have. And when you start looking at the deal life cycle and you're going into property investing, the one question you want to ask, is this befitting to where I am as a person? Is wholesaling befitting to where I am? If you've got creditors breathing down your neck, you will want to understand, do I go into wholesaling, or do I find another quick part-time job to close that gap? And while the things are silent, I start wholesaling. Or am I determined enough? Like what Nazeem decided, 2021 is going to be different. And he made 2021 different. And he's been able to close a deal that has bagged him a good couple of thousands. So one of the guys that I know that ask questions, Nare, I'm not too sure whether you were here for Nazeem sharing or not, but I want you to take notice. Nazeem said, I closed that deal 20 to 30,000 later. Okay. So one deal that seemed like he was able to close within an hour, and that's his accidental deal. But also just to remember, accidental for the situation, because it was like, oh my days. What was it? Luck meeting opportunity. Or luck is called when opportunity meets what? You know that one that we're talking about, right, guys? So nonetheless, that is really just the sum total of the property wholesaling or the property investing cycle. I just want to stop for a moment and ask, is everybody okay? If you're okay, type yes in the chat. Awesome stuff. I like when the yeses come in, so then I am comfortable. If there's any questions, type the question in the meantime. What I'm going to do is swiftly move over into Excel. So thank you. Oh, Nare says, yes, I see you, brother. I see you. Cool stuff. Now, the deal calculator is not anything fancy. It literally is an Excel sheet that will help you determine and understand your numbers. For Nazeem, Nazeem uses an app. It's called My Property app. Lawrence Bull, who was my first coach, because my husband finds complex deals. Our first deal, we needed to move from one coach to another because my husband found a development in a historical site. So yeah, as we move along. So Lawrence Bull has developed something called My Property app. So My Property app, I'm just writing my notes of what I will put down in the description and in the email that I'll send you guys, so that you can see the tool that Nazeem uses. Nozipo says, yes, I'm very new here. Can you clarify what's wholesaling? So on a very quick level, wholesaling, Nozipo, is you as a person will find a property. You're going to run the numbers, which is what we're going to do now, and you're going to do your due diligence. You're going to put a proposal together and say to an investor, I have found a property that you can invest in. So this is what it can do for you. And you'll be able to give them the return on investment and all sorts of stuff that we're going to learn now in the next few minutes. And you literally sell them the deal saying, I'm selling you the idea of what you can do with this property. I have found the property. Come, let's go through the process together so that you can acquire the property, signing the offer to purchase. That's really in a nutshell. What I will encourage you to do, Nozipo, is to, when we finish with the running of numbers, on my channel, search property wholesaling. And there is one of the videos, I think I did just a little bit more than an hour of taking you through from not knowing what wholesaling is to what wholesaling is in quite a bit of detail. Cool. So tonight we are not going to do the numbers off of a deal. The only reason I get nervous to do that online is that on the TPN reports, or on the Lightstone reports, it's people's personal information. Just the other day, I think when I was playing around and saying, I think TPN will fix their coding, Kerry asked me about the Poppy Act. So I don't want anyone on me like, Jen, you've got my personal details up there, wara, wara, wara. So what I'm going to do is I will take you through a scenario. Maybe we could do this, right? I know what we can do. Of course, I know what we can do. So let us go quickly onto property 24, because let's do it not so hypothetical. Let's do it as good as. The other day we went into the Willows. Which area are we going to go into today? Only a pleasure for the clarity, Nozipo. Which area are we going to do today? Cool. Let's see. Parklands. Parklands. Blouberg, north, east. North. Can the bank grant money for purchasing the RDP house and the money for renovations? What I do know what the banks were doing at one stage, Samuel, is that they were, for people that have never bought property before, they were granting what we call the closing costs, which is the bond initiation and the transfer costs. I think there's some sort of motivation that bond originators can do to see if you can get in some of the renovation costs. I must admit, all of that I leave to the bond originator. I don't even get involved in that at all. So sorry that I cannot answer that question as direct. But in my experience, this is what I found, that some banks like Standard Bank, if you've never applied for a bond before, they will give you 103%, which is then giving you the costs to close the property. Cool stuff. So as you would see, we went into Parklands North. We selected the 3 property types. Personally, I do not select any filters. Not now, not ever. And then I clicked on search. As I scroll down on the top right, it shows me one of 20 of 315. I am comfortable with 315. Be careful when it starts saying 1,500, 700. A lot of the times when it gives a huge number here, you will see little areas, for example, let me just share with you, was it Midrand? No, it was Tembisa. I did Tembisa. I'll come back to Parklands North in a moment. Luyolo. For example, Tembisa. This is what I was sharing. Here it may say 112, but in Tembisa, they are saying, look, guys, Tembisa is huge. Get specific with me. From a property investing point of view, you want to get specific. And this specificity is what will keep your eye on the ball. So I thought I would throw that one in for good measure while we're here. I just couldn't remember if I shared that the other day when I was when I had gone into Property 24. So we go into Property 24. The next two things I do, I either go low to high so that I can start understanding what is the cheapest property in Parklands. Okay. It's showing me 2.2. I don't know why that's so right on the top. I did say low to high. Then this looks like a rental. I don't know why it's here, but it does wonderful things like that. And then now I'm looking at 590, 650. Okay, cool. So those first two things, somewhere along the line, I would assume from a technical point of view, something here has slipped through the algorithm, and that's why they're here. But nonetheless, I go from low to high. The low to high just tells me how much is the cheapest place and what order do they go in, right? Now, my one thing that I had found over time is when I'd gone into most recent. Remember the other day we did this in Bloemfontein at the Willows? Not because I'm interested in the most recent one. It's because I'm interested in the oldest one. So maybe let's see if we can find the oldest property to run numbers on. If it's too expensive, then I'm going to move along. Okay, cool. It's fine. Let's go into it. It has been on the market since the 5th of December 2018. Tells me that this great deal is perfect for first-time home buyers or investors. This price is valid until the 15th of January 2019. A 5% increase will apply from 16 January. I've never seen that ever in my whole life. That is actually quite interesting. So yeah, mind you. So we'll just run numbers on this particular property for the sake of this evening, okay? So now we want to go in here and say, whenever you are running numbers, your numbers are based on what is currently happening, okay? You first want to run your numbers to say, what is happening on the market now? So my first thing is my purchase price. So quickly, just to explain the deal calculator to you, there's three things I should have said. With the deal calculator, I usually save my address here, right? So let's call this Mountain View because we saw it as Mountain View. Mountain View. And then what I end up doing is saying file. Okay, save. Let me hide the floatings. Save as. I'm just going to save it straight through to my desktop because this is an example of what I'm doing. Okay, and we'll put it there, right? Imagine that on top here, I said, instead of saying template for wholesaling, I said Mountain View and the address because I like to save it as per the address. In this particular place, the purchase price is 999,000. The deal calculator, wherever you see the green cell, that is the cell that you put the information in. Where you find the white cell, that is a cell that has got the calculation formula. So the moment you type here, the formula changes. That's the second thing you need to know about the deal calculator. And the third thing is that I've got two columns, bond and cash. Some people are cash buyers and some are not. Every line item has a reference as to where you're going to get the information from or what that information is about. I usually put it there because obviously this is a training ground, right? So what I'd like you to know is that in terms of running numbers, we've got our buying costs, our holding costs, and our selling costs. And I'm going to explain it line by line. Now, when you go to the bank and you say to the bank, I need 999,000 Rand. That's the loan you're going to get from the bank. But the bank will give you a loan to a certain value. They'll either give you 80% or 100% or 95% of the money that you are looking for. And that's when you'll start hearing us talking about the loan to value. How much of the loan to the value of 999,000 is the bank going to give me for this particular property? Your risk profile and everything about you is at the bank, and they'll know how you've conducted yourself, right? And they'll be able to then work out the way they work things out to say, am I going to give you 100% or am I going to give you 80%? When I'm on wholesaling, I generally go on an 80% rule of thumb until I know my investor. And this is one of the points when you're asking your investor. So tell me, like, how are we going to pay this thing? And are you going to the bank and whatnot and whatnot? Do you have 100% loan to value? You may not have to go into so much detail, but sometimes I find the more detail you have, the better. Some investors will say, no, I'm going to have the full amount of money. And because of the relationship, I then will go and I'll say 100%. If I go to the investor goes to the bank will give the investor 100%. But what if the bank gives the investor 95%? It means the bank is going to give them 949,000, okay, and 50, and then they need to come up with 49,950 Rand, and that makes up the deposit. So that's the down payment that some people will be talking about. This deposit, why would you want to pay a deposit if you don't have to? And why some people end up paying deposits even if they don't want to. It really goes back to the loan to value the bank is going to give you. So we'll continue on 100% for this example. All right. Now, there is the bond fees, the transfer duty, and the transfer fees. I'm going to explain each of these three in a picture. Why would I want to do a picture? So that you will always have this as a mental view in your mind. I usually go to Uber. I have found over time that there's a lot of people that trust in the Uber calculator. I just believe Better Bond, Uber, they more or less give you a good estimation for where you are. You then go and you'll click on transfer cost calculator. If the property is 999,000 and the bank says, yes, Jen, we're going to give you this full amount of money, the purchase price, the loan amount, the nature, is this a freestanding property or is this a sectional title? Let's go back here. When we look at this particular property, it is showing that this is a sectional title. So somebody bought this property off plan and they're selling their property off plan while it's still being in the process. So here it says, this great deal is perfect for first-time buyers or investors. The security complex consists of 50 upmarket units. It gives a breakdown of the units. It's close to schools. There's viewing by appointment only. And this interesting clause, I've never seen it. I actually think it's quite cool. So nonetheless, we now know it's a sectional title because it is part of an apartment block 50 units. So we want to go into, so freehold means it's a standalone house, nothing is attached to it. Okay. Sectional title, just think of flat or the townhouses type complexes. Okay. The seller registered for VAT. For the sake of this, no one is registered for VAT, and we're going to buy this property in our name. Because yesterday's homework is that you had to go and view the vehicles, the investment vehicle structure that Gareth and TJ was talking about. So the bond registration fees. This is what happens when the bank initiates a bond for you. There's the initiation fee and small little fees of creating this bond so that you can, the bank can service this particular loan that they're going to give you. So that's what the bank will ask for, that 30,000. These small little amounts here, sorry, I don't want to highlight everything. These little amounts here, just under, my computer's being chacharach with me now. There we go. Those points that I have highlighted, all is the roll up amounts of that 30,000. So it's not that you're going to pay 30 and this and this and this. These amounts roll up to this big amount. The difference is this includes VAT. The attorneys, the conveyancing attorneys that are going to be doing the paperwork for you, they are the ones that's going to be asking for this money. Okay? And then transfer costs versus transfer duty is two different things. The costs belong to the attorney. The transfer duty belongs to SARS. Okay? So if we want to go in here, transfer duty, calculator, South Africa. From 1.750 to this, the transfer duty is calculated at 8%. Now it gives you the breakdown on how it's calculated. Okay? So if you want to know much about transfer duty, type it in just as I did. If you actually just say, no, man, I just want to know how much, when do I start paying transfer duty? You'll be able to go into transfer duty SARS, and boom, it will give you the breakdown. So from 1 to 1 million, there is nothing to pay. When you go over 1 million, okay, then you start paying transfer duty. And then it gives you how it is paid. So for those of you that may have known it, please be patient with everybody else that may not know it. So going back in here, we now know there's a total cost of 54,000 that I need to have over and above the loan to value that the bank is going to give me. So which now means I must go back to, let's see. Kerry, you said, why is it 0? Which part is 0? Sorry, I only saw your message now. Which part is 0? You sure? Oh, okay. Oh, you meant the transfer duty. Oh, perfect stuff. Cool stuff. I'm glad I preempted and I answered the question why it's 0, because it's under a million. So nonetheless, we saw it was 54,000 some change. In my experience, some will argue, others will not. But we were always, when we're running the numbers, we want to be closest to the end result. Okay? I would rather say I need 10,000 Rand, and at the end of the day, I realize I actually needed 10,100, and I take out the 100 Rand difference, than not putting a figure at all that is conservative enough. And then I find out I needed 10,000 and I don't know where to start looking for it. So what I've learned is that for the calculators, it told me that I needed 54,000. I'm going to add a 3,000 on it for the just in case of that wiggle room. And this is something that I've learned from property practitioners, from lawyers, and investors that have gone through the process. So 54, we'll make it 57. So you could put anything between 3 to 5,000 Rand just to make sure your bases are covered. They say generally for a sectional title, more than a freehold, you want to put in that 3,000. I say put in the 3 to 5,000 anyway. The sourcing fee. This answers, I think, about 40% of the emails that I've gotten over the last couple of days. The sourcing fee for all the property wholesalers, sourcing fee, finder's fee. Some people say 10 to 15% of the purchase price. Others say 10 to 15% of the profit. My husband and I worked out a formula in the beginning, and we said, what is our time and effort? If we are in the workplace, Monday to Friday is normal time, Saturday is time and a half, Sunday is double time. If I'm working after hours, that is double time. So if I kind of work out all the different times that I've put into going to view the property, coming home, doing the numbers, calling investors, being on the phone, yada, 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 and it all comes up to, for example, 10 hours, right? If I'm paid 100 Rand at work and I eventually work out in these 10 hours, actually, it's been normal time, double time, and time and a half. I now may be sitting at like, let me just sit and consider what would it be? 100 times 10, and that's 1,000. Obviously, we have gone to school for this. So then you can up it and you can say to yourself, okay, because I've invested in my education and I know what I'm doing, I'm then going to just boost it up and make it 5,000 for my first deal. It's a random example, guys. Okay, but I'm wanting to give you the time versus effort thing, the time and effort thing calculation. And if I say, okay, cool, in this deal, there's so much profit, and this person is going to get, like Nazeem shared, they're going to get so much in equity, and there's so much to go into this. Maybe I want to call it 10,000. Nazeem was able to negotiate his way, gave a cheeky offer of 550, okay, but knew that 600 was going to work. But he told the investor 650. But at the end of the day, he included some of his fees in there. So however he's worked that out, he's then figured, I am worth my salt of X amount. And the investor was thinking, well, isn't there more than that you're going to ask for? Anyway, that was the behind the scenes conversation. Now I'm letting the cat out of the bag. So nonetheless, I usually work out my fee at the end of everything. I first do my due diligence. I do my stuff that I'm doing. Because the one thing I also would like you to note, earlier Nazeem mentioned, he was building a relation. He wants to build a relationship with this guy because he saw the value in the fact that this guy is doing a property just down the street from him, and he's got a whole list of buyers, right? So Nazeem decided, instead of asking for 50,000 because he sees a pipeline, he sees the bigger picture, he decided to go on a conservative figure. I've done that as well. One of the days I've just given a deal, like literally next to nothing, to an investor. For me, I wanted to touch base to see, hey, is this person and me going to vibe? And we did. He bought 4 or 5 other deals. 4 or 5, I can't remember. Anyway, moving along swiftly, I trust that answers the property wholesalers' question about how we're going to work things out. I usually say work it out at the end, because you don't ever know if it's going to be a deal in the first place. Be careful not to daydream on the potential. Focus on what is in front of you. The next bit, right, as we would see that particular property. That property is in the process of being fixed up, being built, not fixed up, being built. So my assumption is, when they were taking the pictures, there's still more work that was coming. And by the time the build and the paint and things were done, maybe that's why, assumption, because we're doing it off the internet, right? Maybe that's why it was going up by 5%, because from the pictures that you would have seen, by the time you get there, the place is going to be tiled and painted. So it already has progressed. So we're not going to put anything here for renovation. But in future, this is your renovation cost. So the first set of information we've gone through is what we call your buying costs. In other conversations, the second part here, others will call your closing costs. Same shoes, different socks. It's like sourcing, wholesaling. It's like refurb, renovation, repair. So I'm wanting to get the bigger picture, because you need to have this money to buy. So they call it the buying cost. You need to have this money to close. They call it the closing costs. So essentially, the bank is going to give you 999,000, and you need your bond fees and your transfer fees so that you can close the deal. And that's the first component of it. The next component is this. We want to know, when we buy this particular property, there's a question. Can there be any items in this section that is maybe not on the list? Give me an example. So what I'm understanding you're saying, Kerry, is in the holding costs and stuff like this, is there any other little creepy crawly that can just come out and say, I'm also here? So not in my experience. That would be a number one that would be a surprise for me. Because in the process, you sign your offer to purchase, the bank gives you the money. You give the bank the fees for giving you the money, and you give the attorneys the money for doing the transfer, or liaising or facilitating the transfer. That's really just a very high level. The numbers that we did not include here is renovation. So if we had 5,000 renovation costs, it's good to have it during this period of time, but it's not necessary at this point in time. Okay. There's going to be like your sourcing fee, like I said, at the end. Now, there's something I did not mention. There are times I usually ask for outstanding levies, rates, and taxes. Now, let me just clarify this. With the law and the way the attorneys will work, the seller will close their respective accounts, and you as the buyer will open your respective accounts. The reason I put outstanding levies or rates and taxes onto the calculation is based on the fact that if I know there's something outstanding and I know my seller is motivated to sell, then I may say somewhere along the line, I'm looking for a discount. I can help you out with your outstanding amount of money if we can discount on XYZ. So I use it as a negotiation tip, just by the way. So that is our buying costs / our closing costs. Now, the rates and taxes, if we go back to our advert, we see that the rates and taxes is 325 Rand and the levies is 650. All right. Now, I want to share this about levies. Firstly, the rates and taxes seem like it's a fair amount of money. Once again, we're only doing this in the green field, right? So everything that I insert in this green field for my holding cost is done over 6 months. Remember last night when Colleen was saying, we were just coming to that point of running out of money. There's this in-between period where the property is now registered in your name. You are now liable for everything that particular property is associated with, which in terms of expenses. So somebody's got to pay it if you don't have a tenant in there, and that somebody is you. So you want to budget. And because Colleen and her sister were doing a flip, there wasn't anybody in the property while they had the property out there for sale. So they had their holding costs over 6 months. So if you can remember, she says, we were coming closer there and we understood that at some given point, we may have to rent. And that's why we call it holding costs over a 6-month period. For student accommodation, for example, Rieta has advised me, Jane, whenever you're doing your numbers, be a little bit conservative, especially with COVID around, do it 9 months. Why? Because there's an accreditation, there's some delays with COVID, and so do it 9 months. So essentially, those that are looking for student accommodation, if you haven't done it, if you haven't done it by the end of last year, your time to do your student accommodation searching and closing deals is between now and September, essentially, because you just don't know what you don't know because of the accreditation process and. So that is a quick example or explanation on that. Then I'm going to go back to the utilities. I want to share about the levies. Oftentimes we ask, oh, how much are the levies? And we are told about how much the levies are. In this instance, you want to ask, please, could I have the levies account? Because on their levies account, let me share with you, for those of you that may not have bought in a sectional title or may not own in a sectional title, your levies account will have your electricity line item. It will have something called CSOS, which is a special fee that you pay. They used to have special levies at one stage for all the fixing and the new additions in complexes and that. Now they call it CSOS. Sometimes you'll have a line item that your open parking that has just got one paint line showing number 20. You're paying 15 Rand for that. Then there's maintenance for the common areas. Yeah, you are paying 101 Rand for that. So after a while, these little things accumulate. And if you don't add them in your numbers, you think you're paying 650 for levies. Back at the ranch, when you add up all of those things, next best thing, you're sitting with a bill of 1,500 Rand. If there's anyone in the group in Zoom or on YouTube that can attest to that one, I'd like to hear from you in the comments and the chat respectively. Just say, yes, Jen, I've been there before, or I understand. So for now, again, because we are going through an example straight off the internet, we will leave the 650. Insurance. One of my insurance buddies said, insurance, if you want to estimate it, for every 1 million, have an estimation of 500 Rand in your mind. So for the sake of this exercise, we are going to put 500. So if that was 500,000, we would have put 250. If that was maybe 750, we could have then put 375. You see where I'm working to with my numbers, right? Now, utilities could mean a lot of different things. When you are inquiring about utilities, meaning the monthly operating expenses of that property, you want to ask, is the electricity prepaid or postpaid? Because sometimes the electricity comes outside of the levies bill. Sometimes the electricity comes inside of the levies bill. I've seen it both ways. My property that I owned in Sapphire Town, I got it in a very separate bill. And the property that we currently own, our levies bill has got our electricity, our water meter, CSOS, and how many thousands later. So please be aware of that one. And then I usually ask, are there any other expenses for this property that I need to know? The reason I would ask that, I would put it in here because, for example, before my brother-in-law moved to his new place, when he stayed in Johannesburg CBD, it was quite interesting. He needed to pay for water. And the key card gave him 30 washes. And I thought that was the most fascinating thing in my whole life. So if he needed more water and he had run out of his 30 washes, he could go down and say, I need 5 more washes that will take me to the end of the week or the end of the month or whatever the case is, right? Anyway, Samuel says, when doing a flip, monthly bond payments are not included also on the holding costs. What is included, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, is the bond interest. That is what is included. So that would be the next line item we were going to be talking about, because I'm just finishing off here on utilities, saying ask for any other expenses that this property gives on a month-to-month basis. At this point, I think I've spoken a lot, eh? Cool. This is my favorite cup. My daughter asks me, why do you like drinking out of that cup? I'm like, because it's 600 mils. And every time I finish 600 mils, I get very happy. Cool. So here's Samuel's answer. You see the bond interest. The bond interest is already calculated up here, Samuel, because that's where it will fall under the costs, right? But you'll see in a moment how it's going to change, okay, once we've got all the information populated. So that is a very good question. Moving along, now we can already see our purchase costs, or our buying costs and our holding costs, and the money that we currently got in this deal for 6 months is 128,693 Rand. Why do I want to know this level of detail? That's what investors, please note property wholesalers, that is what investors are looking out for. They want to understand how far in the detail have you gone? Because when you say this particular property will give you a 15% return on investment, they would want to understand what does it mean and how did you get there as we're going along. So now we have spoken about things that are as is as of now if we buy this according to this particular purchase price. Now we want to know, okay, cool, no problem. If I buy this, this is how much I know I'm in the deal. But what if I'm buying to flip it? What money would I make? And what if I am buying to rent it? What money will I make? Now, this is where the next part of the calculator comes in. I promise we're literally 60% through the calculator. Here you are. Agents' fees are maybe 5%. We're putting in the 5% there as a placeholder for now. Some people say, no, I've got the superpower in the advertising chutzpah and I'll be able to sell it myself. And you'll be able to judge that. It depends if you're selling it on your own, how to work out those costs. Now, to come to the sales price, how would we do that? This is where our toolkit comes into play. In this deal calculator, there are 2 tabs. The second tab will first tell you about Property 24, and then this one will tell you about Lightstone or TPN. Same shoes, different socks. I would want to then go back to Property 24 and see, are there any 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage that is 54 square meters? Are there any? Okay, so I'll go back to my results and I'll go and see what those properties are currently selling for in the area. So it's 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. I'll go back to my low to high and I'll start scrolling. 2-bed, 1 bath double. Nope. 2-bed, 1 bath, still less than that, 47. 2-bed, 1 garage, 1 bath. And they're still calling investors and first-time buyers. And they're telling us that this is a bargain. When you see under offer, it means somebody has put in an offer price. Like, guys, I need to buy this property. So if you call there and they say it's already under offer, it just means somebody has made an offer. So we're gonna keep scrolling. 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. 47 square meters. The other one was 54. Let's see if we can get closest to 54. 2-bed, 1 bath, 54. It becomes, there we go. 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 53 square meters. Even though it's under offer, it's okay. We're going to take the price. What are we going to do with the price? We're going to go back to our calculator. 720. We're going to go back to our calculator and say on Property 24, we saw property. We saw property for 720. Now we're going to see if we can find 2-bed, 1 bath, 2-bed, 1 bath. It's quite big. There's no garage, so it's not a like for like. What are we doing now? We're searching to look for comparables, meaning I am looking for a 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, which is similar to this particular property that I'm going to buy, because I want to see on the market right now, are there properties for less or more than this price? 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 56 square meters. That's 735,000. Let's write that down quickly. Okay. And then we're going to continue. There we go. 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 54 square meters. Almost looks like this could be the same price, same place, eh? What are we doing here? We're just checking out even the finished products that are on the market right now, 735,000. We're saying 745,000. Now, this is where TPN will come into play. You're then going to go into TPN. For those of you that may not know TPN, we're then going to go into TPN. Okay. If you've got this property maybe on your own and not via an estate agent, if you've got it via an estate agent, you can ask the estate agent for the Lightstone report. You click on property reports. You'll click on property valuation reports. Okay, I'm not logged in, so you can navigate exactly as I'm doing. Then you'll be able to click on generate report. You generate report, and then you put in the physical address. And as you can see on here, okay, on our property that we had seen, we can go into it quickly. You'll see the physical address. I am not going to put it in, but you can, if you'd like to try, like say, for example, what did we do? 20 Smith Street, whatever. So if you've got an address, you'll be able to call up the address and this particular report, you buy the report. What this report entails is it tells you the property valuation and the different insights about that property, about that area, okay, and about the transaction history of this property. If somebody else has bought it, how much they bought it for, when they bought it, the area demographics, what other rentals may be happening in this particular area, what are the trends, and what are the estimated values. Why would we want to know that? It's because then we're going to go in here, and like what we did on property 24, we want to now go and see if the market is asking for these prices. Oopsie. If the market is asking for these prices, Lightstone or TPN, what are the people actually paying? And this is when you now start putting in those different amounts. And then you come to an average sales price. And that's an average sales price if you really just want to play around with things as to what could it be. For now, we're going to take it at face value. And then we're going to go and say 730, let's just say 735,000. Okay, we already can see immediately that that is an epic fail. But again, for the sake of the conversation, we're going to continue. What will we continue looking at? Now, I want to go into Parklands and I want to see the rental space, the 2 bed, 1 bath on rental. If I have to rent it out, the picture's almost together. If I want to rent it out, two bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. That's what we're looking for. 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. This is interesting. 2 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath. Yeah, bingo. 6,500. Okay, it's slightly bigger, but that's okay. That's our first comparable that is closest. 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 6,500. Also still 6,500. Let's see, is there anything else? We're looking for 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage, 6,500. So the square meterage is close to each other, but it's not making a difference in terms of price. So back to the sales tab, we're saying 6,500. I mean, we're going to put in the same amount. It's going to give us the exact same amount, okay? We want to go back here and say 2 bed, 1 bath, 1 garage. It is 6,500 and it's just 1 unit. So now, if I buy this property for for R1,000,000, and if I sell it, I'm not going to make money. If I rent it out, I'm going to look here again where it says cash flow per month. I'm still not going to make money. So now let's just talk about 3 other things on the bottom calculation. The interest rate right now is 7%. But I always say, work it on 7%. Yes, it will change your monthly cash flow, but everything that goes down will come back up. So take it to the extreme of 10%. Okay. The next thing is, in your area, you want to understand the managing agents. So what is your managing fee? At average, it's generally 10%. How would you figure that out? You will go back onto the internet, as we do, and then we're going to say property management Parklands, Cape Town, because there's Parklands in Durban also. Okay, and then you're going to start reading. See, these are all adverts, right? So here we go. This is the area we are looking in, Blouberg. And then you're going to start seeing all of these are letting agents. You want to give them a phone call. You want to have a look at their website and read up about them, how much they charge. Okay, that's how you would figure out potentially what your property management company would be. There's something called a void. If there's nobody staying in the property is empty. Who's going to be paying for it? So over the year, when you've got a tenant, you want to know that every month you're saving just a little bit, okay? And it's generally 5%, okay? So think about it. 325 Rand times 12. After 1 year, you've got 3,900 Rand you didn't have. And if something has to happen, at least you would be able to pay some of your bond and top up some. So somebody's already paid forward. Maintenance also is generally at 5%. So from an investing point of view, we already see if I go in at R1,000,000, the market is asking for 735,000. I'm going in this particular deal. I don't go in with equity. So I've already lost on a very high level. And here, as a property wholesaler, I haven't even put in my fees, which then means I've lost. I don't have to daydream about how much am I going to charge for this deal. And as we scroll down, if we see the sales price and if we see the rental price, there's no return on investment. There's no return on investment. So when we start talking about running the numbers to understand what is actually happening in the property, in as much as I've said and then some, that is what we mean. If somewhere along the line, one more thing, because then I'm open for questions, because then we're going to close off. If one more thing, you say to yourself, but what would it make it a deal? What if I now put this at 600? I would still scroll down. I'm still losing out. I'm still losing out. What if I say 500? This is now when we start talking about making cheeky offers, ne? I still scroll down. All of a sudden, hey, Bana, I've got some sort of money that I could make from a flip opportunity. But from a rental opportunity, I still fall down. And this is now when we start playing with this particular purchase price to see what would my purchase price be? What would my offer price be for me to make an offer on that property, for me to cash flow on that property? So ladies and gents, that was a mouthful and then some. And this is where I get to saying we are then simply closing off on a statement like this. Let me just make sure that I'm not pulling stunts here and closing YouTube. Genevieve, also YouTube. Okay, so we're closing off on this note. Over the last 4 days, we've spoken about how, when we go in, what is our mindset? What does it look like? We've spoken about when we start understanding what is our strategy for where we are, we need to be able to stick to our strategy, or else all these possibilities are going to pull us in different directions. And when we pulled in a lot of different directions, where to from there? And in that particular space, now we start understanding, okay, when are we looking for property? How do we look for it? When we're doing our desktop research, what does this include? When we are running numbers, why are we asking for all of these different things? Now we see this is what a return on investment looks like. Now we see why the numbers are important. Now we see due diligence, we see market research, right? And I also want to say at this point, you know, when we come into YouTube, we want to give you hard hitting facts, right? And we do short videos. But if you can see, each evening, we've been a little over 2 hours each evening. And if we really have to see at the end of this particular video, we're probably sitting on 8.5 to 9 hours of content. And still, I have not finished all the words in my mouth. Because what I end up doing is that if I can give you an overview of what it looks like over 4 days, the doing part is a very different beast. So when it comes to me and you having a conversation and you're not doing, I can't help. If you're not doing, I can't see why me and you will just have a conversation, just in jail, right? So I want to find out from you guys. This was a mouthful, I know. Do you have any questions? Do you perhaps have any aha moments? For the wholesalers that are out there, I want you to think about where you were before these 4 days to where you are now, that you've got a better picture in your mind. And I want you to sit down and actually ask yourself, can I do this? You can, I know, but ask yourself personally, do I have the time? Do I have the patience to do this? Kerry says, where do you put the SARS/taxes? Does it not come in? Maybe I didn't understand where that came in. In the transfer, the attorney's fees, that's where they will work out taxes and things like that, of that nature. So you're working out an estimated return on investment and things like that. What about the company tax? If you remember correctly, and also I can share with you from experience, in terms of company tax, remember every company is structured differently. So for example, with the buy-to-let residential rules, the letting rules, there are certain things that you are allowed to use as those, what do they call it? Allowable deductibles. You know, these funny names, the things that you're allowed to deduct before it goes for tax. And again, on a larger scale for your company, it also depends where your company is in terms of taxes. So it's unfortunately not a very straightforward answer, but in my experience, it's an overall thing. So like I am trading as a PTY Ltd. I do some deals in my name and I do some deals in the name of my company. All my business transactions goes via my company because I get a small stipend from my company. Some of the small side hustles that I like to do, for example, testing software online and getting paid via my PayPal, that is connected to my F&B, and then it goes into my personal name. So again, you have to see where you are to understand in terms of what happens to your company on a tax structure. So that's where Solna says this is where you need to then call somebody like herself. Awesome stuff. So Kerry says, thank you. So if there are no other questions, the one other question, for me, I didn't prepare for it deliberately. Maybe this is the way I shoot myself in the foot. I've got a first confession to make. I was sharing with Nazeem and Vivek before we came on. You know what happens? Some days I actually ask myself, why am I coaching? Because I make more money doing my business than I make in coaching. And every time where I feel like, maybe I should just let it be, then a student of mine comes in and they say, I dropped a deal. This week, it's been 2 students, so totally blessed. One did a flip, one did a sourcing deal. And I then feel guilty again and say, it's because of the passion I started this with. This is why some days I actually question, is it worth it? But every time somebody comes through and I have an interaction like this with people like yourself, I absolutely see where the personal fulfillment comes in. So for many of you that have asked me about mentoring, coaching, just further having conversations, I've answered your emails, so please check your inbox. And this is how I've answered your emails. I've simply said what you need to do, and I'm going to show you what I said. So this hopefully then answers others that may not have inboxed me. I've said to you, go and book some time in my calendar. When you book time in my calendar, let's have a conversation as to where we are, where you are, what you have done. I've sent you this link. Okay. You literally click on Discovery Call and you are able to go into my calendar and you'll be able to see all the dates that I have got available. So if you say, but no, Jen, I want to talk to you, tell me when can I talk to you? And if you click on the 7th, for example, it shows you all the different times that you can talk to me. You book it into my calendar, you get a link, and the two of us meet on Zoom. That's the first way I've answered. The second way that I've answered, I've said, go into my website. And what I've done is I've put advanced training courses together. The advanced training is paired up with coaching. The advanced training course, for example, you see there's the free course that I've got there. So you could go to the course outline and you'll be able to then see how many hours of content is delivered in 7 modules. Okay. So you'll be able to see all the different modules that we go into detail. Okay. So all of this is the advanced training, is training you will have access to forever. Okay. So at the end of the day, after this training that I do, this is what is there, the advanced training. But what happens with the advanced training is we meet, we set our goals and things like that. The modules are offered to you on a drip feed. So for the next 10 days, the only module you will have in everything is the lead generation module, because you need to go and do. If you don't do, by the time we get to our coaching session 10 days after, me and you will frustrate each other, because I'm going to say to you, how am I going to coach you on theory when you didn't do? Okay. So if you are interested in coaching and mentoring, if you're not much of an action taker and you maybe just need that push, no problem. But if you know that even with the push, it's not going to work, then rather not waste your money. Once you've done the first module and you've got the coaching to go with it, it literally leads to the next step. It's the same thing that we've done right now, but it gives you the same amounts of detail with an example and with my students that I did group coaching with. So it gives you from different angles, not just teaching you line by line what it means. And then my expectation from you would be, if you found a property, you run the numbers. If you didn't find a property, go and find one to run the numbers. If you get stuck, I am happy, because it's better that you get stuck and then we work through that than never going to find a property to actually do the numbers with. That would make me not a very nice coach for you, because then I'm going to say to you, go and do what you needed to do first and then get back to me. So the coaching, the way I do it, is a very hands-on approach. Everything is a step-by-step method. We talk about negotiations. We talk about those suspensive conditions. We talk about the different rental strategies that there are. So you'll find that I've got this particular advanced property training and coaching program. When you go back into the coaching programs, some people may find that they may not be able to afford that one. So they'll go into something that's still exactly the same. However, it's slightly shorter. You find the deal, you run the numbers, you negotiate, you do your suspensive conditions, and then I also teach you as an additional module on how to create a proposal for wholesaling. So this is what I have to offer. At your leisure, please go into my website. I will put my website again on email and down in the description below. My website's very clear. If you're struggling to find, analyze and close, then let's have a conversation. I'm very clear about what I do. So I trust that those that have been asking about coaching and mentoring, you can see it. Like part of me felt like, should I put a proposal together? Should I put a proposal together? I decided not to. Kerry, to answer your question, that is a very good question. Kerry asked, do you have an hour by hour or session by session or a once-off session? So in my shop, I've written a small book. It's a different one. So this boot camp that I've done over the last 4 days is worth 4,000, the valued at 4,000, but on recorded value, I've got it at 997. But I'm going to leave these up on YouTube, so you really don't have to worry about that. If you say, you know what, Jenna, there's a lot of things I've got going on for myself. I want to put one foot in front of the other, but I just want to keep coming back to you to do the numbers. Then to do the numbers, it's 997. If you say, actually, besides just the numbers, I want to talk about a couple of other things that is necessary to me, like Nazeem did. He went and he booked the property investing coaching session. It's 997. So what happens is, to give you an overview, for me from a property perspective, I charge according to my time. I don't charge according to skill, because if I charge according to skill, the numbers would be at least 5 times more than what you see. Just to give you a bit of an overview on what I do. So, Kerry, I trust that. Does that answer your question? The moment you click add to cart, my whole store will take you through the process of purchasing and whatnot. And then you'll be able to get an email. And at the end of the email, within 24 hours, you are contacted. We set up your day and your time, and everything is done on Zoom. I do make exceptions, because there's some people that want to see you flesh and blood, you here. I then meet them at the coffee shop across the road from my place, and we have coffee. And then I tell you to bring your laptop, because I am not going to navigate. You are. I'll teach you how to navigate so that you can feel the pressure. Why? Because when you feel the pressure and you're doing, you're learning. If I am doing, it's easy to look at. So I trust that helps. So Kerry says, thank you. So it's, I want to say this tongue in cheek, right? It's not generally an hour. It can be anything from 45 minutes to 1.5 hours. I want to be clear with you guys. There's a partnership that I did. For example, if you come in on your own, it's 997. But then if there's 2 of you, because I know it's going to take a lot more time, I don't double up the price. I make it 1497, right? And I remember with these 2 ladies, I had gone in and I think I'd done a 2.5 hour session. So I'm not a stickler for time, but I am about commitment. And if you show me your commitment, I'll come back to the party. So I trust that answers your question. To the folk that are, maybe you were waiting for a sales pitch, I'm not very good at sales pitches. only if it's the business that you're going to pay me 50K for my time for for 3 days. That's a different story altogether. But here we family. We're talking, we got family prices and we stick together. But that's a different part of the business that I do 3 days. Nozipo says, wow, really learned a lot. I'm just bummed I missed the last 3 days. Nozipo, I can't say I know how you feel, but what I can encourage you, it's going to stay on YouTube. For as much as you want to take action, you see the picture and the name of this particular YouTube video, it's exactly the same. And it's called part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. You're not going to miss it. So I'm really, really blessed that you've learned a lot. My greatest desire has been fulfilled. Tonight I can sleep. I can have a glass of wine and I can sleep because my desire was to celebrate 1 year of imparting knowledge for free. And if I may ask just one question, if you guys had to value what you've gotten over the last 4 days, what number would you put it in? Yesterday, I missed Lehlogonolo and Edgar. Oh, Kerry, you priceless. You are priceless, my love. Kerry's been the one person that has been consistent. Kerry has always been the first person that I just hear beep, beep. Then I'm like, that's Kerry. And for real, truth Bob, it's Kerry. So I'm glad that you find it priceless. So sometimes when you hear people saying, you get what you pay for, or sometimes when you hear people say, oh, if it's free, is it really valuable? Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So ladies and gents, at this point, I trust that I have answered all of your questions. I trust that I have also given you a lot of food for thought and also just imparted into your life to expand and know that at the end of the day that you can. If you think you can, you can. So is this where we say, until we see each other on the discovery call or until we see each other at coaching? Somebody's going to give me a heart attack. You've just booked for coaching. Cool. I'm going to see you. Don't worry, you're going to get your email shortly about when we can meet for coaching. So clearly somebody is, okay, didn't expect that one. Loyolo says, thank you for the amazing 4 days. Your time and knowledge is life-changing and so valuable. Nare, thanks, Genevieve, for everything. Cool, buddy. So, ladies and gents, thank you so much. I trust that in the future videos, when you start listening to my 7 minutes and my 10-minute videos, then you'd be able to say, actually, I've got the full context of what she's saying. And I get it. Cool stuff. Otherwise, I don't see anything else that's coming through. Cool. You guys have a good one, and I will see you on the flip side. Let's see. Thank you very much for your time and commitment to these sessions. Sibongile, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm thankful that I'm able to add into your lives.